So again, I'm Robert Wittenberg. I'm in the state house. I'm in my third and final term. They're kicking me out of the legislature with the term limits. And I'm one of only, there's 3 Jewish legislators. 2 are Democrats, and I'm the only Jewish Democrat that serves in the State House of Representatives. And I know we are underrepresented. I saw some of my other former colleagues, before my predecessors. I know Vicky Barnett's back there, Lisa Brown. There's some other Jewish legislators that are here, former Jewish legislators. So this is the lowest number we've seen in decades. And I told this at the last caucus meeting that I have some colleagues, some friends that serve in other states. I'm part of a coalition on the gun violence prevention work that I'm doing. There are more Jewish legislators in Alaska than there are in Michigan. I kid you not. So it's it's really interesting, and we got to make sure that our voices are heard. There are 148 legislators here in the state of Michigan. And again, there are only 3 of us that are Jewish, 2 that are Jewish Democrats. And every day before session, we start session with an invocation. And you can imagine, based on the people that are serving on the other side of the aisle, you get to choose, you can either give the invocation yourself or you can choose a faith leader to come out and do it. And I can't tell you, I'm not a big fan of, obviously, religion in government, right? We should have freedom for whatever religion you want to practice and from any kind of religion as well. You shouldn't be part of the government. And I can't tell you how many times we have prayed in Jesus' name in the house. And it happens all the time. And I actually I've had multiple rabbis come there as well. And we also had a humanistic rabbi there. I've had an Orthodox rabbi there. I've had all different people there. But to me, we shouldn't be really doing that anyway. So I can just tell you, obviously, representation matters. There's a saying that if you're not at the table, then you're on the menu. And so I think we've seen some of that going on here, that we don't have the representation that we need. We need more people that can speak to our values. And I'll give an example of what happened last term, and those were at the last caucus meeting. I spoke to this a little bit as well. There was, in my first term in the legislature, there was a bill that was pushed forward solely on a partisan basis. It was pushed through by the Republicans. And this was actually so that faith-based adoption agencies could decide who they wanted to work with in order to have families that were willing to adopt children. And to me, it was just blatantly discriminatory, not just for, and this was at the same time when the Obergefell v. Hodges, the marriage equality case was going on. This wasn't only discriminatory against same-sex couples, this could also be discriminatory against other religions, because most of these agencies are Catholic agencies. And so I spoke on the House floor, and for those that have seen or that know kind of what goes on the House floor, we're giving those speeches, but for the most part, people have already made up their minds before that vote goes up on the board. But I got up there and I spoke not about how I said, it's obviously discriminatory against same-sex couples, but it's also discriminatory against other religions, and specifically for me, being Jewish. If they say, a Catholic agency, if they just say, you know what, I think Jews killed Jesus and we shouldn't adopt the child to this family or let them foster a child, then they're allowed to do that. So we were giving these agencies the freedom to discriminate, which seems so crazy to me. And so I spoke about that on the House floor, and there was one Republican that was Jewish. And when I gave that speech, he went to his, I'm getting pushed here, he went to his attorney on the Republican side and said, is that true? And they said, yes. You give them the right to say who they can and can't work with. And so he changed his vote. He actually changed his vote and voted no. Unfortunately, it still passed, and I know our Attorney General, Dana Nessel, has been dealing with this and addressing this. But that's what happened, and so that's why it's so important that we have representation, that people understand the values that we share. And so my colleague and I, so Jeremy Moss, I want to make sure I give a plug for Jeremy, who's not here. Jeremy, actually, of all places, is on a legislative mission in Israel. And so there's a legislative mission there. So I wanted to make sure that we recognize him as well. But I think it's tough for me to kind of say any more than what Senator Peters and Senator Levin said. But to me, the big issue that we're seeing now on a nationwide level, right, is people who are trying to co-opt our voices and try to tell us what is anti-Semitic or who is or isn't anti-Semitic, right? So the same people who are saying there are good people on the side and they're out there marching saying Jews will not replace us, they're also the same people that are now criticizing other people for being anti-Semitic. And I don't think that is right, that they can tell us what is or isn't anti-Semitic. And I know we talk about, and I probably have just a few seconds here, one of the other things, we see a president who talks about people coming from, pardon my French, but S-hole countries, right? And to me, it is so terrible to hear that, right? These are countries, and we talk about our Jewish values, tikkun olam, right? Healing the world. And these are countries that could use some help. And that's our part in the world. That's what we should be doing. Also telling people to go back to where they came from. I know Senator Levin talked about this, but that is just horrific, right? We all come from the same place. We all want to make sure that everyone in this country has they're able to have freedom. They're able to be treated equally. So to me, it's crazy what we're seeing. And so for Democrats, for Jews, we need to make sure our voices are heard. And so that's why, again, I want to thank the group that put this on today, because if we're not at the table, we're on the menu. And so it's so important to us. Most Jews actually fall to the left. I know the Jewish News did a study on this. We fall to the left, but we got to make sure that our voices are heard. So that's why it's amazing to see so many people here today that are all part of this. And I will cut this short now.